Hey everyone, Olivia here. So, you will not believe what happened to me this morning. It's one of those stories that you just have to share. You know those mornings where everything feels perfectly aligned? The sun is just starting to peek through, the birds are singing. Well, my morning started a little differently. My alarm, my trusty, never-fail alarm, decided to take a vacation. It just didn't ring. I swear, I set it. And I woke up, oh my goodness, super late. Like, the sun wasn't just peeking, it was practically shouting, "Where have you been?" I bolted upright in bed, heart racing, thinking I'd missed everything. But then, a funny thing happened. Instead of panic, this wave of cheerfulness washed over me. It was like the universe was telling me to slow down, to enjoy a little unexpected freedom. Honestly, it felt a little bit magical. And you know what? I decided to embrace it. Now, I want to share this whole crazy morning adventure with you. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. And don't forget, we have new videos released daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you are never going to believe this day I had. I'd been meaning to explore these coastal walks near my place for ages, right? Like, literally, ages. I kept saying, oh, next weekend, or, when the weather's nicer, the usual procrastination spiel. But then, last Tuesday, poof. This burst of spontaneous energy hit me. I woke up and thought, today's the day. You know those moments? Like the universe just nudges you and says, go on, then. So, I threw on my comfiest walking shoes, the ones that look like they've hiked Everest a few times but are secretly incredibly supportive, grabbed my backpack, stuffed it with snacks, essential, obviously, a big water bottle, and my camera. I'm trying to be better about documenting these little adventures, you know? The coast isn't far from me, thankfully, but the particular stretch I had in mind involved a bit of a drive. The sun was already blazing, a proper summer scorcher, and the car radio was playing this cheesy 80s playlist. I was singing along, windows down, wind whipping through my hair, pure bliss. I parked near this quaint little village, all cobbled streets and flower boxes overflowing with geraniums. Honestly, it was like something out of a postcard. The air smelled of salt and something faintly sweet, like honeysuckle maybe? Anyway, I found the start of the trail, this narrow, winding path that just disappeared into the thick green foliage. And that's where the adventure really began. The first part was easy enough, a gentle incline with dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. Birds were chirping, the leaves were rustling, so peaceful. But then, the path started to climb. And I mean climb. My thighs were burning, my heart was pounding, and I may have uttered a few colorful words under my breath. But the higher I got, the more incredible the views became. Suddenly, the trees opened up and, bam! This breathtaking panorama of the coastline stretched out before me. The sea was this vibrant turquoise, shimmering under the sun. The cliffs were rugged and dramatic, plunging down to the water. Honestly, it took my breath away. I just stood there for ages, soaking it all in, feeling this overwhelming sense of freedom, I guess? You know, that feeling you get when you're surrounded by nature's grandeur and you realize how small your problems really are. I continued along the path, which now hugged the edge of the cliff. It got a bit hairy in places, narrow and uneven, with sheer drops just a few feet away. I'm not going to lie, my palms were sweating a little. But the adrenaline rush was exhilarating. I even saw a family of peregrine falcons circling overhead. They were so majestic, so powerful. It felt like a privilege to witness them in their natural habitat. Then, I reached this secluded little cove. It was like a hidden gem, tucked away between the cliffs. The sand was soft and golden, and the water was crystal clear. I just had to go down. So, I carefully scrambled down these rocks which, let me tell you, was a bit of a mission in itself, and found myself on this practically deserted beach. I kicked off my shoes, wiggled my toes in the sand, pure heaven. The waves were gently lapping against the shore, the sun was warm on my skin. I felt so relaxed, so at peace. I spent what felt like hours just wandering along the beach, collecting shells, and breathing in the fresh sea air. I even had a little paddle in the water, which was surprisingly refreshing. It was so clear. I could see little fish darting amongst the rocks. And then, disaster struck. Remember those snacks I packed? Well, I'd been saving this delicious-looking sandwich for my lunch, right? I sat down on a rock, unwrapped it, and a seagull swooped down and snatched it right out of my hand. Can you believe it? I was so shocked, I just stared in disbelief as it flew off with my lunch. I mean, talk about adding insult to injury. I was starving. So, there I was, stranded on this beautiful beach, with no lunch and the tide slowly starting to come in. It was getting late, and I knew I had to start heading back. The climb back up the rocks was even more treacherous than the descent. I slipped a couple of times, and at one point, I was pretty sure I was going to lose my footing and end up in the water. But I made it, eventually, bruised and scraped but triumphant. The walk back was a bit of a blur. I was tired, hungry, and my legs were aching. But I couldn't stop smiling. Despite the stolen sandwich and the near-death experience on the rocks, it had been an incredible day. I'd discovered this hidden paradise, challenged myself physically, and connected with nature in a way I hadn't in ages. You know those days where you feel truly alive? This was one of them. When I finally got back to the car, I was exhausted but buzzing with energy. I grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler I had smartly left in the car and guzzled it down like I hadn't had a drink in days. The drive home was beautiful. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the countryside. I was replaying the day in my head, remembering the breathtaking views, the sound of the waves, the smell of the sea air. Even the cheeky seagull stealing my sandwich made me chuckle. And you know what? It made me realize something. Sometimes, the best adventures are the ones we don't plan. The ones where we just throw caution to the wind and embrace the unexpected. So, yeah, that was my day exploring the coastal walks. It was challenging, exhilarating, and unforgettable. And now, I'm already planning my next adventure. Any suggestions? Maybe somewhere with fewer thieving seagulls, though. Just sayin'. Okay, so grab a cuppa, settle in, because I have a asterisk story to tell you. It's about this one day, right? A day I dedicated to exploring these amazing historical sites. I'd been meaning to do it for ages, you know, like one of those things you put on your someday list. Well, someday finally arrived. I decided to hit up these old Roman ruins just outside of town. I'd heard they were pretty incredible, but honestly, nothing prepared me for the sheer scale of it all. I mean, you see pictures, right? But being there, feeling the sun bake down on these ancient stones, the wind whispering through the crumbled arches, it's totally different. So, I get there, and the first thing that hits me is the smell. It's this earthy, dry scent, mixed with, I don't know how to describe it, the ghost of wood smoke. Like maybe centuries of campfires still clinging to the air. Weird, right? But kind of magical too. The site itself was sprawling. I had this little pamphlet, a flimsy thing that was already falling apart, and it had a map, sort of. It was one of those artistic renditions that look absolutely nothing like the actual terrain. I swear, I spent the first hour just wandering around, completely lost, but in a good way. I stumbled upon this tiny, almost hidden amphitheater. Can you imagine? Me, all alone, standing in the center of this place where, thousands of years ago, people laughed and cheered and watched, whatever they watched back then. Gladiator battles? Plays about grumpy gods? Who knows? I sat there for a while, just soaking it all in. The rough stone beneath my fingers, the quiet hum of the wind, the vast, blue sky above. It's like, you could almost feel the history, you know? like echoes of voices and laughter still hanging in the air. It gave me goosebumps. Right, so, after my little moment of historical communion, I decided I should probably find my way back to the main path. Easier said than done. Remember that useless map? Yeah, well, after about half an hour of bushwhacking. Seriously, there were thorns involved. I emerge onto this path, only to find a group of school kids on a field trip. So much for the serene historical experience. But, hey, it was kind of cute. They were all so excited, pointing at everything and asking their teacher a million questions. It reminded me of how I used to be, fascinated by history and all its mysteries. I actually overheard one kid ask if Romans had invented pizza. I chuckled to myself. Wouldn't that be something? After escaping the enthusiastic horde, bless their little cotton socks, but loud, I finally found the main ruins. This massive, crumbling temple thing. It was breathtaking. Seriously, the size of the columns, the intricate carvings. Even though it was mostly in ruins, you could still see the grandeur of it all. I spent ages just wandering around, taking pictures, of course, trying to imagine what it must have looked like in its prime. Guess what happened next? I dropped my phone, right down a crack between two stones. Panic. I'm talking full-on, heart in my throat panic. It was my phone asterisk, my lifeline, my camera, my everything. I spent a good 10 minutes trying to fish it out with a twig. No luck. Finally, I had to ask this really nice older couple if they had anything I could use. They handed me this weird, extendable grabber thing. You know, the kind you use to pick up trash? I felt like such a dork. But it worked. I got my phone back, slightly scratched, but otherwise okay. Disaster averted. So, after that little adventure, I decided it was time for lunch. I'd packed this really yummy sandwich, and I found this little shady spot overlooking the ruins. It was perfect. The sun warm on my face, the breeze rustling the leaves, the quiet hum of history all around, and a slightly squished sandwich. Life is good, right? After lunch, I decided to tackle the museum. Now, usually, I'm not a huge museum person. They can be a bit stuffy, you know? But this one was different. It was small, but packed with these incredible artifacts, pottery shards, ancient coins, tools, even some jewelry. And the best part? They had these little interactive displays that explained how everything was used, what daily life was like back then. It was actually really fascinating. Did you know they used to have these tiny, intricate combs made out of bone? So cool. Anyway, the sun was starting to set as I left the museum, casting these long, golden shadows across the ruins. It was truly magical. I wandered back through the site, this time with a much better understanding of what I was looking at. It wasn't just piles of old stones anymore. It was a city, a civilization, a whole world that had existed long before me. And it was humbling, you know? To think about all the lives that had been lived in this place, all the stories that these stones could tell. As I walked back to my car, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. It was a perfect day. A day of exploration, discovery, and a little bit of clumsiness with a phone and a grabber tool. But hey, that's life, right? So, yeah, that's my story. A day exploring historical sites. It sounds kind of simple, I guess, but it was honestly one of those experiences that sticks with you. It reminded me of the power of history, the beauty of the past, and the importance of appreciating the little moments. And hey, maybe next time I'll invest in a better map. And maybe leave the phone at home. Just kidding, sort of. Anyway, what about you? Any good adventures lately? Hey everyone. It's so inspiring to see you all actively practicing your English speaking. Remember, those who have the passion to learn, have the power to change the world. Think about it. By learning a new language, you're opening up a whole new world of communication, understanding, and connection. It empowers you to connect with different cultures, share your ideas with a wider audience, and truly make a difference. Believe in yourself, and your language journey will be incredible. You've got this. And you know what? A simple way to boost your confidence is to record yourself speaking. Imagine this. You're cooking dinner, and you just start describing your recipe aloud in English, recording it on your phone. Or maybe you're taking a walk, and you describe what you see around you. It's so easy to do, and it really helps you get comfortable hearing your own voice in English. Plus, you can listen back and track your progress. It's actually quite fun. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? Something as simple as ordering food confidently can sometimes feel like a big hurdle. We've all been there, right? That moment when you know exactly what you want, but suddenly your mind goes blank. It's totally normal, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. You will not believe what happened next. I ordered my coffee in English the other day without even thinking twice. Honestly, it felt like magic. Speaking of which, I have a question for you all. I was reading a menu the other day and completely blanked on how to pronounce Worcestershire sauce. It made me wonder, which word in English do you find the hardest? Share in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences, and maybe we can even help each other out. So, you know how sometimes you just need a day to yourself? A day to wander, to explore, to just be? Well, last Saturday was exactly that kind of day for me. I woke up with this pull towards beauty, towards something. I don't know, different. And somehow, that translated into a spontaneous trip to explore the local art galleries downtown. Now, I'm not some huge art connoisseur or anything. I just appreciate pretty things, you know? I love colors, textures, the way an artist can capture a feeling and just splat it onto a canvas. It's magic, really. So, I threw on a comfy sweater, that slightly oversized, oatmeal-colored one I practically live in, grabbed my favorite worn-out tote bag, and headed out. The air was crisp, that perfect autumnal chill that nips at your nose and makes you want to burrow into a warm scarf. The leaves were swirling down in these beautiful, chaotic dances, fiery reds and oranges against the steely gray sky. It was just breathtaking. My first stop was this tiny, tucked-away gallery called The Hidden Canvas. It's down this little alleyway, almost hidden, like a secret waiting to be discovered. The scent of old wood and turpentine hit me as soon as I stepped inside. It was dimly lit, with track lighting focused on the artwork, creating these pools of light and shadow. The walls were a deep, rich crimson that made the paintings pop. And the paintings, oh, the paintings. They were mostly abstracts, swirls of color and texture that seemed to shift and change as you moved. One in particular caught my eye. It was a riot of blues and greens, with hints of gold peeking through, like sunlight through leaves. I stood there for ages, just lost in it. It felt like I was looking into the heart of a storm, powerful and chaotic, yet somehow peaceful. You know what I mean? That feeling of being completely absorbed by something outside of yourself? The gallery owner, this sweet little old lady with bright, twinkling eyes, saw me staring and came over. We chatted for a bit about the artist, a local woman who apparently found inspiration in nature. She told me stories about the artist's process, her struggles, her triumphs. It made the painting even more real, somehow. Next, I wandered into the Urban Gallery, a much more modern space with stark white walls and polished concrete floors. The art here was completely different. Edgy photography, bold sculptures made from recycled materials, installations that challenged you to think. One piece, a giant metal spiderweb hanging from the ceiling, completely freaked me out. I swear, I almost walked into it. Talk about embarrassing. But it was fascinating, too, how something so unsettling could also be so beautiful. I spent a good hour there, just soaking it all in. There was a group of art students sketching in the corner, their pencils scratching against paper, capturing the essence of the pieces in their own way. The low hum of conversation, the clicking of cameras, the quiet contemplation, it was this vibrant, creative energy that just filled the space. Feeling a little peckish, I grabbed a quick lunch at this quirky little cafe next door. Imagine mismatched chairs, vintage posters on the walls, and the aroma of freshly baked bread hanging in the air. I ordered a tomato and mozzarella panini, simple but perfect. And while I ate, I sketched in my little notebook, trying to capture the feeling of the day, the colors, the textures, the emotions. I'm no artist, believe me, but it's just therapeutic, you know? To try and translate what you see and feel onto paper. After lunch, I decided to check out the Sculptures Studio, a gallery dedicated, as you might guess, to sculptures. This place was a sensory overload. Cool, smooth marble, rough, textured wood, cold, hard metal. There were abstract pieces that defied description, realistic figures that seemed to breathe, and everything in between. I even touched a few, don't tell anyone, running my fingers over the curves and angles, trying to understand the artist's vision. One sculpture, a bronze figure of a dancer caught mid-leap, absolutely captivated me. The way the artist had captured the movement, the grace, the power, it was breathtaking. I could almost feel the dancer's muscles tense, the rush of wind against her skin. I circled it several times, trying to see it from every angle, appreciating the artistry, the sheer skill involved in creating something so alive. My final stop was The Color Burst, a gallery specializing in vibrant, colorful paintings. This place was like stepping into a rainbow. The walls were covered in paintings that exploded with color, bright yellows, deep blues, fiery reds, vibrant greens. It was almost overwhelming, but in a good way. It was like a shot of pure joy, a celebration of life. Guess what happened next? I actually met one of the artists. He was this young guy with paint splattered on his jeans and a mischievous twinkle in his eye. We talked for ages about his inspiration, his process, his love of color. He told me about how he tries to capture emotions through color, how a certain shade of blue can evoke sadness, while a vibrant yellow can represent joy. It was so fascinating to hear him talk about his art, to understand the stories behind the colors. As the day drew to a close, I wandered back home, my tote bag slightly heavier from a few small prints I'd bought, my heart full of inspiration and joy. The city lights were twinkling, casting a warm glow on the streets. The air was still crisp, but now it carried the scent of wood smoke and the faintest hint of rain. It was a perfect day. A day of unexpected discoveries, of quiet contemplation, of vibrant colors and captivating stories. It reminded me of the importance of taking time for yourself, of exploring your surroundings, of finding beauty in the unexpected. And you know what? I can't wait to do it again. Maybe next time, you'll join me? So, you know how sometimes you just need a day to yourself? A day to wander, to explore, to just be? Well, last Saturday was one of those days for me. I'd been feeling a little stuck, you know? Like a hamster on a wheel. And the solution, as it often is, presented itself in the form of a local art walk. I'd seen posters dotted around town, Open Studios Day, showcasing local artists and their workshops. I'd always meant to go, but life, as it does, always seemed to get in the way. But this Saturday was different. This Saturday, I declared to my cat, who, let's be honest, didn't care, was going to be a day of art and adventure. Armed with a flimsy map, a reusable water bottle, and a healthy dose of anticipation, I set off. The first studio was tucked away down a cobbled alleyway, the kind you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. It was in an old converted stable, the air thick with the scent of linseed oil and turpentine. A tiny woman with hands covered in clay greeted me with a smile. Her studio was a riot of color and texture, clay sculptures in various stages of completion, canvases splashed with vibrant hues, and shelves overflowing with pots and brushes. I spent ages just looking. Touching the cool, smooth surface of a half-finished sculpture, tracing the brushstrokes on a canvas with my eyes. You know, trying to decipher the story behind each piece. The artist, bless her heart, saw me admiring a small, intricately carved bird and started telling me about her process. We chatted for what felt like hours about inspiration, about the struggles of creative life, about finding beauty in the everyday. It was so refreshing. Just to connect with someone over a shared appreciation for art. The next studio was completely different. Modern, minimalist, all white walls and clean lines. The artist, a young man with intense eyes and a nervous energy, worked with metal. His sculptures were abstract, angular, and somehow unsettling. I wasn't sure I liked them, if I'm honest. But they definitely made me think. And isn't that the point of art sometimes? To challenge your perceptions, to push you outside your comfort zone? He was a little shy, this artist, not as forthcoming as the clay sculptor. But when I asked him about a particular piece, a twisted, jagged structure that looked like a frozen explosion, he lit up. He explained how it represented the chaos of the modern world, the constant bombardment of information, the feeling of being overwhelmed. And suddenly, I got it. I saw the vulnerability, the anxiety, the sheer humanness in those cold, hard lines. It was a powerful moment. Leaving his studio, I felt a little dazed. It was like stepping out of a dream. The sun was higher in the sky now, the streets bustling with Saturday shoppers. I grabbed a quick coffee and a pastry from a little bakery, the smell of warm bread wafting out onto the street was heavenly, and consulted my map. The next few studios were a blur of watercolor landscapes, whimsical pottery, and abstract photography. I chatted with a photographer who specialized in capturing the beauty of decaying buildings, a potter who showed me how to throw a pot. I was terrible, absolutely terrible, but it was fun, and a painter whose vibrant cityscapes made me feel like I was walking through the streets of Paris. There were little surprises along the way, too. Like the tiny courtyard garden hidden behind one of the studios, filled with fragrant herbs and buzzing bees. Or the impromptu jam session I stumbled upon in another, a group of musicians. Experimenting with different sounds. It was so spontaneous, so joyful, so utterly unexpected. Of course, there were also mishaps. Like the time I accidentally knocked over a display of delicate glass ornaments, mortifying. Or the time I got completely lost trying to find a studio tucked away in a maze of backstreets, ended up in someone's garden, slightly awkward. But even those moments, looking back, add to the charm of the day. You know what struck me most about the whole experience? It was the sense of community. These artists, each working in their own unique style, their own little world, were all connected by this shared passion for creating. And for that one day, I felt like I was part of that community, too. Like I was peeking behind the curtain, getting a glimpse into the heart and soul of these creative individuals. By the time I made it back home, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. I was exhausted, my feet ached, and my head was buzzing with images, sounds, and conversations. But I also felt full, nourished. Like I'd rediscovered something I'd lost touch with. It's funny, isn't it? How sometimes the simplest things, a walk, a conversation, a glimpse into someone else's world, can have such a profound impact. That day, exploring those local art studios, wasn't just about seeing pretty pictures or admiring skillful craftsmanship. It was about connection, about inspiration. About remembering the power of art to move us, to challenge us, to connect us. And you know what? I think that's exactly what I needed. A little dose of art, a little dose of community, and a whole lot of soul-stirring beauty. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hey everyone. Learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember, the view from the top is incredible. And you know what? Mistakes are the best teachers, never be afraid of them. Think about it. Every time you stumble over a word or phrase, you're actually learning something new. Those little stumbles are like signposts pointing you in the right direction. They show you exactly what you need to work on, and each correction brings you one step closer to fluency. So, embrace those mistakes, they're your secret weapon. One super simple way to practice every day is while cooking. Honestly, it's brilliant. As you chop those veggies or stir that sauce, just start narrating what you're doing in English. Now, I'm adding the onions. This smells amazing. You're already doing the activity, so why not add a little English? Practice to the mix? It's such a fun and easy way to sneak in some extra speaking time without even realizing it. Speaking up in meetings, though. I get it. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? It's totally normal. That feeling of wanting to contribute but feeling a little stuck is something many learners experience. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, every single person in that meeting has probably felt that way at some point in their lives, about something. Just breathe, take your time, and remember, every word you speak is a victory. You will not believe what happened in a meeting the other day. I finally gathered the courage to share my ideas in English, and it went so well. It really boosted my confidence. And you know what? It got me thinking about all the different ways people practice speaking. How do you practice English? Speaking daily? I'm so curious to hear your tips and tricks. Sharing our experiences can really help us all learn and grow together. Okay, so, you are not going to believe this day I had. I decided I was going to have a me day. A day entirely dedicated to exploring the local cafe scene. I'm talking full immersion, caffeine overload, pastry-induced coma, the whole shebang. I'd been feeling so cooped up lately, you know? Like I needed a little adventure, even if it was just within a 5-mile radius of my apartment. So, I pull on my comfiest jeans, a cute sweater, because, cafe vibes, right? Grab my trusty notebook and pen, because, aspiring writer vibes, obviously, and I'm out the door. The sun was shining, there was a crispness in the air, it was perfect. Autumn, you know, just starting to whisper its presence with the turning leaves. That smell of wood smoke and damp earth, bliss. My first stop was this tiny little place called the Cozy Kettle. I'd walked past it a million times but never actually gone in. It's tucked away down a side street, all ivy-covered brick and tiny paned windows. Inside? Oh, inside, it was like stepping into a grandmother's hug. Seriously. Dark wood furniture, mismatched china, the soft murmur of conversations, and the smell. The smell of cinnamon and freshly baked bread. Oh my goodness. It was heavenly. I ordered a chai latte, my go-to for cafe explorations, and a slice of apple crumble cake that looked like it had just emerged from a fairy tale. I settled into a little armchair by the window, sunlight streaming in, and just exhaled. You know that feeling? Like all the little anxieties just melt away? It was magic. I people-watched a bit, an elderly couple holding hands across a table, a young woman sketching furiously in a notebook, kindred spirit, a guy with bright pink hair engrossed in a thick novel. It was just life, unfolding in its beautiful, messy glory. The chai latte was perfect, creamy, spicy, just the right amount of sweet. And the cake? Don't even get me started. It was warm, with this crumbly, buttery topping and chunks of soft, cinnamon-spiced apple. I savored every bite, writing little snippets of observations in my notebook. I felt like a proper writer, soaking up inspiration. My next stop was a complete 180. The grind, they called it. All exposed brick, industrial lighting, minimalist decor. The music was louder, the energy was higher. It was buzzing with activity, laptops clicking, conversations flowing, the hiss of the espresso machine a constant soundtrack. This place was definitely more work and hustle than cozy contemplation. I ordered a cold brew this time, wanting to experience the full spectrum of caffeinated possibilities. And because I have zero self-control, I also got a chocolate croissant. I mean, come on, it was staring at me from the display case with its flaky, buttery goodness. How could I resist? This time, I sat at the bar, watching the barista work her magic. Her movements were so precise, so fluid, it was mesmerizing. She was like a caffeine-fueled ballerina, twirling and swirling and creating these beautiful works of coffee art. I tried to strike up a conversation, asking her about her favorite coffee beans and the intricacies of latte art. She was super friendly, and we ended up chatting for a good 10 minutes about the local coffee scene. Who knew there was so much to know about coffee? After the grind, I was feeling pretty energized, so I decided to walk a bit, explore a neighborhood I hadn't been to before. I stumbled upon this hidden little park, tucked between buildings, almost secret. There was a fountain gurgling, benches scattered around, and the most vibrant fall foliage I'd ever seen. I sat there for a while, just breathing in the fresh air and letting my mind wander. It was so peaceful, so unexpected in the middle of the city. My final cafe stop was The Bean and Book, a combination bookstore and cafe. Can you even imagine a more perfect place? It was like heaven. The air was thick with the smell of old books and freshly brewed coffee. Bookshelves lined the walls, reaching up to the ceiling. There were comfy armchairs scattered throughout, inviting you to curl up with a good book and a warm drink. I ordered a London fog. I was starting to feel a bit adventurous. And browsed the shelves. I love the feeling of being surrounded by books. It's like being surrounded by possibilities, by stories waiting to be discovered. I ended up finding a beautiful edition of a poetry collection I'd been wanting to read for ages. I settled into a plush armchair by a window overlooking the street, sipped my London fog, which was surprisingly delicious, and lost myself in the poetry. The world outside faded away, and I was transported to another time, another place. Guess what happened next? I totally lost track of time. I was so engrossed in my book that I didn't realize how late it was getting. The cafe was starting to close, and I was the last customer left. Oops. I felt a little embarrassed, but the barista was super sweet about it. She even gave me a discount on my book. Walking home that evening, the city lights twinkling around me, I felt content. It wasn't some grand adventure, but it was exactly what I needed. A day of simple pleasures, good coffee, good books, good company, even if it was mostly just my own. It reminded me that sometimes, the best adventures are the ones you find right in your own backyard. You know what I mean? It was a reminder to slow down, to appreciate the little things, to savor the moment. And, of course, to never underestimate the power of a good cup of coffee. So, yeah, that was my day exploring local cafes. Maybe we should do it together sometime? What do you say? Okay, so, you will not believe the day I had. I decided, I needed a little adventure. Something beyond the usual grocery store gym Netflix routine. And what's more adventurous than exploring the local food scene, right? I mean, really exploring it, not just ordering takeout from the same Thai place for the 5th time in a month. So, I mapped out this whole culinary journey through my neighborhood. A real, off-the-beaten-path, hole-in-the-wall kind of day. I'm talking places where the menus are handwritten, and the owners know everyone by name. The kind of places that make you feel like you've stumbled upon a hidden gem. You know what I mean? That feeling of discovery? I love that. I started my morning at this tiny little bakery tucked away on a side street I'd never even noticed before. It was called Sunrise Sweets, and oh my goodness, the smell. The moment I stepped inside, this warm, yeasty, sugary aroma just enveloped me. It was like walking into a hug. They had these incredible cinnamon rolls, still warm from the oven, with this gooey, sweet icing dripping down the sides. I'm making myself hungry just thinking about it. I grabbed one, along with a little cup of strong, dark coffee, and sat at a tiny table by the window. Pure bliss. The bakery was filled with the quiet chatter of regulars, the clinking of cups, the rhythmic thump of the baker kneading dough in the back. It was just cozy. A perfect start to my food adventure. Next up was this dim sum place I'd heard whispers about. Apparently, they make the best soup dumplings in the city. And let me tell you, the whispers were true. This place was packed. Families, couples, friends, all crammed around tables, sharing steaming baskets of dumplings, plates piled high with noodles. The noise level was incredible, a happy, chaotic symphony of clattering dishes and lively conversations. I managed to snag a seat at the counter and ordered the soup dumplings, of course, and some pork buns. Oh, my goodness. The soup dumplings were these delicate little pockets of pure magic. The dough was thin and silky, the filling was flavorful and juicy, and the broth inside. It was like a warm, savory explosion in my mouth. I burned my tongue a little because I couldn't wait for them to cool down, but it was so worth it. Seriously, you have to try this place. After dim sum, I was feeling pretty full, but I was determined to stick to my plan. My next stop was a little empanada shop run by this adorable Argentinian couple. The shop was tiny, maybe 2 tables inside, but they had this amazing display case filled with all sorts of empanadas, beef, chicken, spinach and ricotta, even a sweet apple cinnamon one. The woman behind the counter, whose name was Maria, helped me pick out a few. She had this warm, motherly vibe, and she kept insisting I try the chimichurri sauce. "It's my grandmother's recipe," she said, beaming. And you know what? It was amazing. The empanadas were flaky and delicious, and that chimichurri sauce. It was tangy and herbaceous and just perfect. I sat outside at one of the little tables, savoring every bite, watching people stroll by. By this point, I was starting to feel a little overwhelmed. I had maybe been a tad ambitious with my food tour. I mean, who knew exploring local cuisine could be so filling? I decided to take a break, wander through a nearby park, and just let everything digest. The park was beautiful, green grass, tall trees, kids playing, dogs chasing frisbees. I sat on a bench, closed my eyes, and just breathed. It was so peaceful. After my park break, I was ready for round 2. My next destination was a Vietnamese pho restaurant I'd been meaning to try. The broth simmered in enormous pots behind the counter, filling the air with this fragrant, aromatic steam. I ordered a bowl of their signature pho, and it was exactly what I needed. Warm, comforting, and packed with flavor. The noodles were perfectly cooked, the broth was rich and savory, and the fresh herbs and lime added this bright, refreshing touch. It was the perfect antidote to my earlier food coma. Feeling revitalized, I decided to end my culinary adventure on a sweet note. There was this little gelato place I'd passed earlier, and I couldn't resist. They had all these unusual flavors: pistachio, lavender honey, salted caramel, even a spicy chocolate one. I ended up getting a scoop of the pistachio and a scoop of the salted caramel, and oh my god, it was heavenly. The pistachio was creamy and nutty, and the salted caramel was rich and decadent with just the right amount of saltiness. I ate my gelato slowly, savoring every last lick, as the sun started to set. Walking home, my stomach pleasantly full, my senses still buzzing from all the amazing food I'd tasted, I realized something. It wasn't just about the food, you know? It was about the experience. The smells, the sounds, the conversations, the little moments of connection with the people who made the food, the people I'd seen throughout the day. It was about discovering hidden gems in my own neighborhood, and feeling like a tourist in my own city. And you know what else I realized? I'd completely forgotten about the stress of the week, the deadlines, the to-do lists. For one day, I'd allowed myself to simply be present, to enjoy the simple pleasure of good food and good company, even if the company was just myself and a string of friendly faces behind counters. It was a reminder that sometimes the best adventures are the ones you find right outside your door, and that sometimes all you need is a good meal and a little exploration to recharge your soul. So, yeah, it was a good day. A really good day. You should try it sometime. Map out your own food adventure. You might be surprised at what you discover. And if you do, you have to tell me all about it, okay? We can compare notes. Now, I'm thinking about those cinnamon rolls again. Maybe I'll head back to Sunrise Sweets tomorrow morning. What do you think? Too much? Nah, never too much of a good thing, right? From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and for staying with me throughout this video. It really means the world to me to have you here. I'd love it if you would follow, like, subscribe, and share this video so you can stay updated with new daily content focused on English speaking and listening. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, do you have anything exciting coming up this weekend? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans is a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with others in the comments. I can't wait to hear all about it. See you tomorrow, and remember to take good care of yourselves and keep practicing. Your progress is amazing.